Hi, I'm Benj. Welcome back to Doing Outdoors. And today you find me in the greenhouse. And right about now, this is where I'm spending most of my time. Not only to propagate all of my seeds and get pushed on in the growing department, but also hide out the way of these constant rain showers that we keep having. The sun's shining right now, but the wind is absolutely howling. So within the greenhouse, it's the best place to be at the minute. But right now in the greenhouse, everything is starting to look good. It's looking green. It's the first time this year that you can really notice that we're really getting into the growing season. The shallots that we planted some time ago now, they're all looking good. And in fact, just yesterday, me and Louise have prepared the growing bed back at home where most of these are going to get put. I am going to have a growing bed up here at the farm, but I've yet to construct that and I'm still gathering materials, mainly compost. It's going to be a no-dig system up here, but at home we've got a dug patch that we've been growing in since we've been in the house, and that's where most of these are going to end up. You can see that the onion sets, they're ready to go out. They've come on quite well these last week. In fact, they've about doubled in size. And if you cast your mind back to when I first started the hotbed within the greenhouse, I started some onion seeds and I put a load of chili peppers and sweet peppers in. I did actually take the sweet peppers and chili peppers out of the hotbed after it was nearly 3 weeks because nothing had germinated. I scraped the top of the soil or the compost and nothing had even started to germinate. I think it was just too cold, so I took them home and I've had them on the windowsill. It took them a further 2 weeks before anything started germinating. At one point I thought I was going to lose some of the seeds, but most of them have come through. Some better than others, the likes of the Butterlochia. Out of the 10 seeds that we had, only 2 have germinated. Another one of the chili peppers, I've got Havana Gold, 4 are big, and just this morning another seedling has started germinating. But the likes of the sweet bell pepper and the long sweet pepper, they've come really well. I've also got some jalapeno that I started, and this is a packet of seed that I've had for 2 years now. I wasn't expecting much, especially as I hadn't kept them in an optimal environment. They'd just been left in the shed. All right, they were in a tin, but the cold temperatures were still able to get to them, but they've still germinated, so it's good. But of the onion seeds that we started, this is what's left. You can see that there is only half a tray, and that's because I pricked the other half out into modular trays last week, and I counted them out because I'm trying to do a bit of an experiment to see what's more economical, growing from onion sets or growing from seed. And already what I'm finding is that you get twice as many plants for half the money when you grow with onion seeds compared to buying the onion sets. So just off this half of the tray, I pricked out 160 onion plants. So you'd think there's probably another 160 on this half. Compare that to the onion sets that I got. I only got 127 bulbs, and I can see already that some of those haven't sprouted and won't sprout. The ultimate factor will be, though, is whether these will grow a bigger globe than the sets. If they're of a comparable size, then definitely growing from seed is the most economical option. But another test I'm doing within that test is that I'm going to see if transplanting these onions out of this tray into modular trays first before putting them in their growing bed, or planting them straight out of this tray into the growing bed will produce bigger globes. Ultimately, I want more weight of veg. I don't mind spending a little bit more time potting things around if it's going to mean that I get a higher yield, because ultimately all we want is a great yield for a low cost. So down here are the pricked out onion plants. that I'm talking about. The theory has it that they'll grow bigger and stronger in their own cell. And you can see down here the potato plants that were growing in the buckets. Now this is the first year that I've tried to grow first earlies in buckets for a start, and to start them off in the greenhouse. These have been in 5 weeks now, which is the earliest I've ever planted potatoes. And as you can see, they are growing really well. Hopefully this is a good sign that we're going to get a bountiful harvest of these new potatoes. Once the chance of a real heavy frost has passed, then these will go outside and make way for all of the chilies and the tomatoes and the pepper plants that are going to grow on in this greenhouse. And now we'll just have a quick look at the hotbed. It's never really gotten as hot as I'd like it to have. However, in this last week, it has crept back up to 30 degrees Celsius, which is the hottest it's ever been, really. The surface temperature, the coldest that's been, is just under 14 degrees Celsius. So it's not bad, considering it's gone down to as low as 4 and 5 degrees. So to maintain 14, I think still good enough to germinate on. I have got a couple of pots in here at the moment. I've got some basil, I've got some iceberg lettuce at the back, and then a random packet of onion seeds that I had kicking about. Old seeds, I'm not expecting them to do much, but if they do grow, I'll carry them on. But for next year, I think I really need to reconsider what I do with this hotbed. Whether it was that I didn't put enough water on as I built the levels, or whether I need to find a different material to make the hotbed, because I was expecting it to get as hot as the compost heaps do, and they get well within the red. On this compost thermometer, you see this is just, I've just pulled this out, it's at 30 degrees. On the compost heaps that I built later last year, it got to 60-70 degrees Celsius. But we're going to get pricked out now, and in fact my pricked out pepper plants are going to go on this hotbed. I want them to harden off a little bit. Some of them are getting a little too leggy, so coming back into the greenhouse in the hotbed where it's a little bit cooler than in my house, it should stop them growing on so fast. So when it comes to either sowing seeds or pricking seedlings out, I still like to sieve my compost. Some people don't, but I think the finer the growing medium you got, the easier the roots are going to find to work around that, get a decent root system built up in a quicker time. And in fact, whilst I'm pricking out these pepper plants, I want to talk about a particular variety of sweet bell peppers, and that's the California Wonder. I grew these last year. However, each and every plant produced long, thin, hot chilies. Now, whether that was a mistake from the factory or where they were packaged, or whether it was down to my growing conditions forced the fruits to become like that, I don't know, but I'm going to give them another try this year. I don't know if any of you have grown the California Wonder and have had similar problems. Write me a message below if you have. But I thought that was really strange. But you can see in there that the root systems aren't too big at the minute, not too entangled, so by the time I've teased these apart, it shouldn't have damaged their root system too much, so they should grow really fast and very strong. And look at that. Not one part of the root structure has been damaged in this process. So I'm actually trying another variety of sweet pepper this year. This is a Romano. It looks like a long sweet pepper, thick-walled hopefully. And again, these plants have come really strong. I think every seed that I planted germinated. I only put I think 16 because I only want to get one tray full. And again, root system's not so entangled, perfect time to prick them out really. And there we go, all of the sweet and the hot chili plants have been pricked into their individual pots, and they are going to stay in here on the hotbed. I'm going to leave it uncovered now. I'll keep an eye on the weather. If it looks like we're going to have a heavy frost, I will come and cover these over because they are very delicate plants. They don't like frost at all. So all that's left for me is to give these a drink, and then I'm going to go home. I'm going to try some of that salami that I made a few weeks ago. See how that's worked out. Right, so I've just popped back home for some lunch, and what I'm going to try and eat is some of the salami that we made a few weeks ago. In front of me I've got the two smallest pieces, and although we haven't got a massive build-up of mould, because these haven't been in a properly controlled curing chamber, I've just had them hanging in the garage, so it's been cold enough but probably too dry. I think the humidity should have been quite a lot higher, but I've just had them on the scales and they've lost more than a third of their weight, and the target is for them to lose a third of their weight before you start eating them. So they're going to be ready. They look good and they smell good. So it's not quite as tightly packed in the casing as I'd like it to have been. There's a few air gaps. That's something I need to figure out. I probably should have put it through the mincer one more time to make sure all the meat was bound properly. But there's no mould grain on the inside. And it smells good. In fact, it's very nice. What do you think?
Looks nice, doesn't it? Looks proper. So what's that like, little holy bits?
Wash.
Meaty.
That's when you get peppercorn. Right, there's a few things I need to learn from this sausage. One is getting my mixture to tightly pack into the casing first of all. But it tastes really good. The recipe that I tried to follow is a Calabrian style salami, and that calls for lots of pepper, peppercorns and a hot pepper sauce. Well, I hadn't got my own hot pepper sauce, so I used a bit of Encona hot pepper sauce. And it's actually given it a very good flavour, just a slight bit of heat, which I like. So yeah, it's a success, something I'll be trying again, but I really need to build myself a curing chamber so that I can maintain the correct humidity and the correct temperature. And that way I probably would have had the white mould growing all on the outside, which would have also improved the flavour. But very, very tasty nonetheless. Although the cow bung that it's cased in, not quite so good for eating. Right, I need to get back to work.